Welcome to the How to Trade Like a Pro podcast. I'm Wieland Arlt and I'm happy to welcome in this episode the one and only wandering trader Marcello Arrambide. With Marcello, I'm talking about travel, trading and lifestyle of a trader. Before we start, take a closer look at the risk disclaimer in the show notes and now enjoy this episode. Marcello, I'm so happy to be together with you after we met in Medellin, now to have this, it's not really an interview, it's more, I hope so, a conversation about trading, about life, about traveling. And so as you've been the one and only wandering trader, and I follow you for years, I'm really, really happy to discuss with you about everything. So welcome, Marcello, to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Marcello, let's just jump right in. And most of you, most of the listeners and the people know you as the wandering trader. But of course, you haven't always been the wandering trader. You have a history, you have a story. Even though you're quite young, you just did a lot of things in your life. So just tell me a bit about your life story. I know you're from
I was born in Venezuela. I came to the US. I basically consider myself American, even though I have European heritage. But my family was always traveling a lot. We were going on cruises and things like that. And so at a young, early age, I got into trading actually because I was taking college level courses in high school. They're called AP classes, advanced placement classes in the US. And I would go up to my uncle's house and he would come home and he would be like, oh, I made $10,000 a day. Oh, I lost $17,000 a day. So the whole situation with the stock market was in the back of my head because of that. That's how I kind of got into trading.
Okay, I see.
And so being a person, I wasn't poor when I grew up, but I wasn't rich either. You know, I kind of had to struggle and work for all the things that I had. Right. So for me, I always thought that success wasn't necessarily money. It was really about freedom. Right. And so in the society that we live in, there's a great story. I forget where this comes from or who said it, but they talk about how there's an American who goes to a place in Central America, sees a guy with a boat, and he's like, oh, you know, you're doing so well. Why don't you start growing and get 2 boats? And then after you get 2 boats, you can keep reinvesting, and then you can get a big yacht, and then you can go public, and then you can have yachts all over the world, and then you can retire and then go back and live and spend time with your family. And then the guy looks at him, he's like, I'm already doing that now. Like, why would I go through all that to have to do the same thing I'm doing now?
So true.
So I kind of always had that belief that success isn't necessarily about money, but obviously in the society that we live in order to enjoy life, it's about, you need money, right? It's right. Not necessarily, I'm not really a fancy guy. I don't have Ferraris or like Louis Vuitton purses or, you know, all that stuff doesn't really interest me. But when I go out eat or I go to buy something or I see something that I really want, I don't really look at the price tag. So for me, it's not necessarily about being rich. It's really about having enough money to not worry about money. And trading obviously provides that balance, right? Where you can, in the beginning, it's a lot of work, right? Everybody kind of sells it as it's super easy, and it's really not. It's one of the hardest ways to make money make money the easy way. Yeah. But if you're able to do it correctly after suffering and putting in the hours and, you know, the late nights and all that stuff, it can be great because it gives you kind of the great balance where you can do really well money-wise. You can have time as well. And so that's kind of the shortened version of my background. So eventually in college, took me a while to decide to quit my job because obviously it's super scary, right? To leave quote unquote a fixed income.
For sure.
But eventually I left. I still remember we didn't have all the technology that we had today. So I was traveling with 2 suitcases, 2 17-inch HP laptops with 2 monitors, like as a backup, right? If one went down, I needed the other one to be able to trade and stuff. Yeah. Now you can do everything from a laptop, even the cell phone with TradingView and stuff. But that was kind of the whole idea. So I left eventually. I traveled all around the world. I've lived in, if I remember the numbers right, it's been so many years, 12 countries across 5 continents. You know, I visited about 150 countries, and it's been a great life so far.
Yeah, it sounds like. And as you are posting about this live on wanderingtrader.com for years, I mean, everybody can follow your journey and also see, I mean, pictures, but I mean, you're still quite young. I mean, you're like 36 right now, right? I think
30. I actually just turned 39.
39.
Thanks for the compliment, though.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. Anyway, so you did quite a lot, and everybody who looks at this website sees a lot of pictures, like all these traveling ones. And this was way before Instagram started, all the people just showing off on Instagram. I do the same, honestly speaking, so I have all the traveling pictures on Instagram and, hey guys, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And I totally agree. It's not about being rich in terms of, I have stacks of money in my room. Nobody cares about that. But you have the freedom to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and in terms of you want, right? And this is something that really just money can buy, because with money you can just buy time and experiences, right?
I'll give you a quick example. Sorry to interrupt you. I remember I had a girlfriend in Brazil when I was living in Brazil, and I couldn't be in Brazil more than 6 months. So I had to kind of wait until the year was over, the calendar year, to come back. And I found out that she was cheating on me when I went back. And so, everybody's been cheated on or had that situation. But one of the things that was great, I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to get out of here. I'm just going to go do something else. So I just bought a one-way flight to Singapore. I went to live in Singapore, and it was great because it's a new city, new senses, new everything, new language. And you kind of, I got over it really quick because of that. So not that, you have to do that to get over a relationship or whatever, but that's kind of the thing that I'm talking about, just being able to have that freedom to kind of do what you want to do. And that kind of, for me, is the definition of success.
Absolutely. It's so true, because I feel the same, not that I got cheated on, but whenever I go somewhere, I have 2 backpacks and that's it. I just travel, carry on. So whenever I feel like, I don't like it here anymore, I just go. You can go to the next flight and you're off. And this is some kind of freedom. And even you don't have to care about where to go, how much the flight is right now, but just use your credit card and you're gone. And
even people now, like with the way that the inflation and stuff is going, even if a newer trader is just starting to get the consistency and they need to go somewhere else to save on money or whatever, right? You can go to Latin America, or even Spain is a lot cheaper than the US, or even Asia, for example. The time difference is a little bit messed up there, but I mean, you could live on $500 a day in a place like Thailand, or even, Sri Lanka, or a lot of these places in Asia. And so it kind of provides an advantage as well, because part of the reason why people don't become successful is because of the pressure of having to make money. And a lot of people quit their jobs too early, and then the pressure comes in. It's happened to me when I was traveling, right? Like you have a bad day or a bad week, and then the pressure starts setting in, and the psychology, I had to like live off of other things for a while my trading came back. A lot of people don't think about those things. So it has that benefit as well, where you can have a higher quality of life somewhere else. Because, in Thailand, you can literally get a massage for $1 a day every single day. I mean, you can't do that in the US if you don't have the money, right? It'll cost $100, $150.
Yeah, true.
It's great, man, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned a lot of very, very important things, starting back really when you just got in touch the first time with trading, with your uncle. And he was telling me, I was up 10. Now I'm down 17 grand a day, which is really quite a lot. So you need to do some huge trades to get to these numbers. But also you're talking about pressure. And pressure is something a lot of people don't really feel like it's necessary to think about, because usually it's like, okay, where's the best entry, where's the best exit, and how can I make money fast? Which turns to, how can I get broke fast? And
it's always levels of pressure. Like the way that I always describe it is it's like riding a bike for the first time. You have to think about the process. You have to think about, so it's about the pressure. And the way I describe it is about riding a bike. When you first ride a bike or learn how to drive a car, you have to actively think about every single piece of the process, right? You have to put the clutch, you have to change the shifter, you have to like worry about this and that. But then over time, you don't even think about riding a bike. You don't even think about driving home. Your subconscious automatically takes you there, because that's where you're going. It's like a GPS map in your brain. You just kind of put it in, and you just automatically do it because you've already trained your mind how to do that. And trading is kind of the same, where in the beginning, it is difficult, right? If it was easy, everybody would be a professional trader. So you have to learn how to do that. But then after you learn, then obviously you get to the different levels of psychology and different levels of capital, where in the beginning you might be making $50 a day or $100 a day. That's what the goal is. And then eventually that turns into 1,000 or 10,000 or 50,000, assuming you do everything properly and you don't have like big psychological battles and things like that. Yeah,
but how can you get there? I mean, okay, talking about $50 a day, it's possible and achievable for most of the people. I mean, you don't have even to have a big and huge account. You just start, let's say, with $5,000. You have the 1% rule.
Well, not even now, right? Now they have the micro futures where you can open up an account with $100 minimum. And since futures have a much bigger leverage built into the system, you don't have the risk of actually having to borrow money from the broker, like in Forex or, the trash, like binary options or synthetic indexes, where they give you 100 to 1 or 500 to 1 leverage, and you actually have to borrow the money and pay interest on that. In futures, you don't have to borrow the money. It's built automatically into the system because of the way futures are designed. And so with a micro futures account, you can open up an account with $100, and then the S&P 500, for example, you could do, the way I always describe it to people is, if we think conservatively, let's say, okay, I'm going to make $1 a day in profit. Right. Well, if you're trading in stocks or Forex without margin, without having to borrow money to get leverage, you're only going to make $1 in profit. True. Whereas with futures, it's anywhere between, $5. This is the micros, anywhere to $5,000 per dollar in profit, which is the silver futures. So with micro futures, if you just open up a $100 account, if you make $1 in profit, that's $5. That's just one contract. So you assume 4 weeks in a month, 3 days profit, right? You could make, $10, $20, $30 a day. You're not going to live off of that, but that's kind of the beginning of kind of getting to the next level, right? If you get to the normal futures account, which are the minis, it's a minimum of $1,000 to open up the account, and then $1 in profit turns into $50 a day.
Right.
You're not going to live off of that either, but especially now with the way inflation is, I know what the government is reporting, I think it's more like 20-30% inflation.
Of course.
That's going to pay your phone bill. It's going to pay your car payment, and then you start kind of building over time.
True. I mean, doing this is that, you can add up to your expenses with this, or just, go, I mean, so many people, they always tell me, I want to have this life. I mean, first of all, I did a lot of things in my life just, for a living, and I'm over 50. So what can I say? If you're 50, you have a lot of more things if you think about how to get a good, well, not a job, but, an occupation, let's put it this way, to make money. So if you start with when you're 30 and 20 years later, you're like 50, wow. So it's a different story, even as a trader, and especially as a trader. So it's one thing. But also what people really don't see is that even if they start small and they give themselves, let's say, 3 years, they are not really big, but big enough, just to slow down some kind of whatever job it is and to put a little bit more effort into trading.
I just think most people, they want instant gratification, right? That's why we've seen this boom in crypto, because everybody thinks they can find one of these garbage coins, invest $1, and then make $1 million off of the dollar. And yeah, you can do that. But most people, there's 13,000 cryptos that have failed. Yeah. So, if you're going to be successful, it takes work. It's that simple, right? And most people don't think about kind of the little steps. It's like going to the gym. If you're fat and you go to the gym and you lose, let's say, half a pound a week, let's say a kilo a month, which works out to be, 0.25 kilos a week, over a year, you're going to lose 12, 15 kilos. Yeah. So it needs to be kind of that stair-step process. Another way to explain it is kind of people playing American football or football, soccer, the way we call it in the US. You're not going to get the ball and then play in the championship game, the Super Bowl in the US, or, the World Cup internationally. The first day that you get the ball at your feet, you have to practice, you have to learn, you have to go through the battles, you have to, So most people don't consider that when they are going to learn trading, because it's a process, just like anything else.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely right. You need consistency. So you need to continue and move on, just day by day for the rest of your life, if you want to, So it's the same as going to the gym. Yeah, I want to be, I want to be the shredded guy. Just start working out, right? So I want to be rich. Okay, just start making the first simple steps, making experiences, lose money, win money, go break even, and then just, evolve from that. And that's what a lot of people don't get. They want to, Lambo now. And this is, for sure, this is something what definitely was some kind of fault of crypto. You go with Shiba whatever.
No, I don't think it's the fault of crypto. I think people always have had that kind of that kind of wanting to get rich quick. They just didn't have a vehicle. I think it was expressed in crypto.
Yeah,
and before crypto in 2008, it was the housing market. And before that, it was the tech stocks in 1999.
Yeah,
and decades ago, millennia ago, it was tulip mania in the Netherlands. So I think this is just a cultural thing where every generation has their own version of it. But I don't think crypto created that. I think it was more like it expressed in crypto.
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, totally. So it's a vehicle, and people use it. I mean, also there was some discussion about all this Wall Street bet stuff, GameStop, and where people just jumping if this is it. Maybe for now, maybe for the moment, but not tomorrow. And this is not a consistency. You can use and use and use, even though you're wrong. I mean, today I made some trades. My trading style is some kind of counter move. But if you go to the NASDAQ today, you see just moving up. There's no counter.
Right.
There's nothing. So you just get stopped out, and that's a deal. So, and tomorrow there will be swings again, and everything is fine. So that's the deal you have to, you have to know about.
Yeah, I agree.
So how was it when I read about you on wanderingtrader.com? I see you started off with a loan. Is it right? So you just took literally credit.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any money, and so what I did was I took $25,000 in student loans, and
Kids
most people don't know.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I lost it in a month, and I did what any other responsible man would do: is I went out and I took out more loans.
Right.
So I think very irresponsible. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend somebody else does that, but I was just so convinced. If it wasn't going to be with trading, it would have been with something else. You know what I mean? So for me, it's just a matter of getting it done. It's just the avenue. And the avenue I chose was the markets and trading.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely something that looking back was a little bit crazy, but it worked out. So
yeah, finally it worked out, obviously. And just to think about it a bit, if you just have a loan of 25,000, you lose it. This means you have to make back 25,000, but these 25,000 are not yours. So
right.
And you have to make another 25 to have them, So it's pretty hard work to return to, to success, to the road of success doing this. But anyway, you made it, and apparently you're still there. So obviously you did something right. How's your trading style? How would you describe it?
I'm more of a swing trader now. So because of all the things I have going on, I'm building hotels here in Colombia. Obviously, I have the academy. I have other things as well, properties in the US. It's hard for me to have to sit down for an hour or two the way I kind of describe it is I didn't learn how to trade to have to wake up at a certain time every day to trade. Mm-hmm. So now what I've kind of done is I've moved into swing trading where I can put in a position and then just kind of when I'm walking through the airport or wherever, look at the trading view charts on my cell phone and, pick and choose my spots and then kind of get out of positions or get in positions depending where I want to get in and out. So what I mostly do now is swing trading and mostly in silver miners. So the stocks of mining companies that mostly do silver because I'm very, very big on silver. And so that's mainly what I do now. It's a little bit more longer term.
Okay, but why silver? I mean, yeah, you can go gold. Everybody knows gold, maybe oil, but why silver?
Silver has great volatility. The silver futures, for example, is the highest profit. So every dollar in profit in the silver futures market is $5,000 because of the leverage. Mm-hmm. And also because gold, for the most part, only changes hands. It doesn't really have an industrial value, whereas silver has industrial value. For example, the back of mirrors is silver. Mm-hmm. There's a huge demand now rising because of the batteries and also the solar panels, which use a lot of silver. Most people don't realize that silver is the highest conductive metal that we have anywhere. So you don't lose as much electricity when it travels through a silver wire, for example. That's what that means. And so the demand is exploding for silver while they haven't found a significant amount of mines. So the demand is exploding while the supply isn't going up at the same rate. So at one point, silver is just going to explode. I'll give you an example. During the pandemic in 2020, one of the miners that I trade went down to about 97 cents or so.
Yeah.
So I was able to get it about $1.04, and then within the year it went up to $7-8. Now it's probably sitting at about 3.30, if I'm not mistaken, and it's kind of hovering around 2.30 to about, I want to say $3-4. So it's good volatility. And then obviously the long-term prospect is that there's a huge demand going on because of the electric vehicles, because the silver goes into the batteries, and then even the solar panels. So that's mainly why I like silver.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, sure. I mean, volatility is king when it comes to trading. So therefore, I totally agree. Also on trading futures. But you started out as a future trader, right? And
the E-mini S&P 500. Yeah. And I still think that's one of the best markets for traders to learn on, because one of the things that most people don't realize is the market moves in waves. And so you're not always going to have the best market ever to make money in, right? The market for sometimes in the summer, it gets really slow. Thanksgiving week, it gets really slow. So as a trader, you have to understand that, well, yeah, you're going to have the great moments, but you're going to have the mad moments too. So the great thing with the S&P 500, the E-mini, the future, is that it provides kind of a great spectrum for people to learn on. And that's what you need to do as a trader. You need to learn how to be conservative when the market isn't doing well, and you need to learn how to be aggressive when the market is moving well. So the E-mini S&P 500, I think, provides that balance. And then once people learn, they can go and trade whatever they want, because, reading a chart, whether it's in a future or a stock or Forex, it's exactly the same. True. So then you can trade longer term, shorter term, medium term, and then you kind of decide as a trader how you want to kind of handle the positions that you trade, because then it's kind of a personal, like a personal style, so to speak.
How long does it take to get to that level where you just say, okay, now I'm free to use like every chart, and I can go for every market situation, and also I have my mindset on the proper setup?
I think it depends on the person. I think if anybody tells you that you're going to be successful in X amount of time, that for me is a red flag, because it depends on the person. I have trained, a 14-year-old here in Colombia, for example. I've had a 12-year-old too that didn't know anything about trading. I've also traded a guy, rest in peace, James Kensington. He was trading a $300 million hedge fund. So I've seen a huge range of people and personalities. And one thing that I've noticed is you don't have to be the smartest person in the world. Nope. You don't have to know anything about finance or economics or even math. You don't have to be good at math. Right. You just have to be disciplined. And you have to, it's really more about pattern recognition. And obviously that takes time. So the fastest that I've seen somebody do it is 6 weeks, from absolutely zero all the way to being consistently profitable. And then the longest I've seen somebody do it was 9 years. He did binary options, and that was Raul. He unfortunately died as well. Rest in peace. He did binary options and Forex for 7 years. Then he changed to futures. Took him 2 years with me. And then he went back and started doing Forex again, but successfully. So the key for me isn't, it comes down to the person taking it serious, being disciplined. I'll give you an example. A lot of people play around when they're on simulation, but one of the things they don't understand is that when you're doing that on simulation, you're creating a habit. So when you're under a high degree of pressure, when you're trading live and your money's on the line, you're going to revert back to those stupid decisions and games you were playing on sim. So I can't really give you an exact period of time, because another thing that it depends on, for example, is a lot of people want to sell these indicators and lines and all this stuff. Right. And when it comes to trading, it's about, in my opinion, 85-90% psychology. So what you have to do is simplify it as much as possible to get a simple strategy. There isn't necessarily one better way to trade, because there's a bunch of different ways that people trade. There's a million different indicators that people use, and they all work. True. So it's about simplifying the process to be able to make sure you can focus on your psychology, because that's the hardest part. And then after that, obviously looking for the consistency, which I gave you the range there, right? It's anywhere between, I would say, 6 weeks to 2 years, because it depends on the person, whether they take it serious. The smartest person, for example, isn't necessarily the best, because they're stubborn. So they want to do whatever they want rather than learning from your mistakes. So that's kind of the range that I can give you for the most part. Yeah, I understand. And I totally agree. Always everything is individual. So people are, it's true, they're stubborn. If you're trading like for a couple of years and then you see, I don't get any further, I need some help. You have all this stuff in your mind,
and you have all the habits, all the bad habits as well. So you have to get rid of those first of all, and then you have to apply some new ideas, and also you have to agree of them. And that's totally the point. So, and the turtles, they already have proven it that if you give one system to like a bunch of people, you have like a bunch of systems, right? Because of that.
No, but you know what I think what it is I think everybody always tries to find like this holy grail system or strategy.
True.
And the problem is that most people don't realize that they can't trade like somebody else. It's like you have to have like a guide, a strategy, fixed rules that will allow you to sit down and learn. But then eventually you have to develop your own personal style. And me being in this industry and training people and funding traders, I realized over a while, the way that I kind of set up the business was somebody became successful, and then I would put them in the academy to help me continue to redefine the strategy, because they have new eyes, a new point of view. The markets change constantly. And then kind of the strategy that we teach kind of changes over time. But most people don't realize when they try to trade exactly like somebody else that they don't have the same risk tolerance. They don't have the same personality. They don't have the same cojones, right? Somebody can go in and put in a ton of capital. Other people are a lot more conservative.
Yeah.
So it's like a self-reflection game where you have to kind of realize and how you want to do things and what you feel comfortable with, kind of in a framework of ideas, whether it's a strategy that you want to use, and then kind of continue from there and kind of develop your own style. That's why I think a lot of people fail, because they see somebody else who's successful. They try to copy them, black and white. And that's part of the reason why they fail, because you can't trade like somebody else. You're not going to be comfortable that way.
Yeah, I mean, you never can copy somebody else. And this is a huge misconception in life in general. If you just want to copy the life of somebody, I want to have this lifestyle, but you don't know where this lifestyle is coming from. I want to have this money, but you don't know where this money is coming from. You don't know anything. And even though you feel like, I want to be a speaker, are you a speaker? Things like this, So, I mean, we both are used to be on stage. So it's not for everybody. So you need to be very comfortable when people are eyeballing you, right? So.
Well, it's funny because I remember 2 or 3 situations of guys on the Spanish side that I've had where they were very big introverts and they didn't feel comfortable at all being in front of people. And, when you train people, especially when you're teaching people how to trade, obviously, if you're wrong all the time, that's not going to go very well. And I threw them kind of in the lion's cage doing presentations in person in front of 500, 1,000 people, or training people in a training room in a live market with 100, 200, 300 people in a class. Yeah. And the fact that I forced them to do that and they felt that pressure actually helped them with the trading, because these were mainly the guys that were trading my money at the time. And so by feeling that pressure, it kind of allowed them to go back in the market and say, oh, well, this isn't too bad, right? It's just like, some lines moving up and down. It's not that big of a deal. So it kind of depends on the person. I agree with you, but also I think people can change over time because their capacity, their psychological levels and stress they increase over time as well, because they're able to handle a lot more over time.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, if you can change from being not comfortable to comfortable in public with what you're doing, totally, that's totally a fact, but you have to grow into it. And speaking of growing into it, I mean, if you start low and then, like with a small account, and all of a sudden you get a big account, this could change also your point of view of trading. How are your experiences with this? For example, you have, some students trading your money. So how did this work?
So my idea with trading was, well, yeah, I can sit down and trade and have my freedom, but then I always have to work. Yeah. Who wants to work? Right. And so if it's working for me and I was training people and it was working for them, where the idea is, well, let me train them to trade my money. And then that way I won't have to work, because then I don't have to get up in the morning. Yeah. And so that was kind of the beginning of it. The first group was 7 people. And then after that, I, turned into a funding company, kind of over time. And then now, it's a business to run the funding company and the actual traders. And it kind of, grows over time. But that was kind of the idea behind that, is that, well, if I really want my freedom, I don't want to have to wake up in the morning. Here in Colombia, for example, I would have to wake up at 8 for the market at 8:30. And, who wants to wake up? I just, one of the great things I love about my life is that I don't have an alarm. I just wake up whenever I wake up.
Yeah, which is really healthy. And if you have like a quite normal, healthy lifestyle, which is not that easy from time to time.
That was kind of the idea behind that. And so far, so good.
Yeah. So therefore, you're better off in Argentina or in Brazil, because I
wouldn't recommend Argentina. I personally don't like Argentina. And the problem with Argentina for traders as well is that they have a very late start. So they'll eat dinner, for example, at 11 p.m. And then they'll pregame to go partying. And then the after party will start at 5 or 6 in the morning. Like I couldn't enjoy my time in Argentina for that reason. I had to get up and work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Brazil's a little bit different. They're not as late. So they're kind of like on, I would call it more the Western. Germany, I think, is probably the same. Yeah, true. The US, where it's like, well, you eat dinner maybe 7, 8, 9, then you pregame, and then you start going out maybe 10, 11. You get home by 3 or 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Yeah. So I would much prefer Brazil over Argentina, and because the Brazilians are a little bit nicer than the Argentinians as well.
Well, this is, of course, a single experience, just to say that. But anyway, I mean, that's also something which is really great about, first of all, the job. Second, the traveling. We're free to go where we get treated the best, where our money gets treated the best, where you feel like most comfortable, where we agree with the people and everything else. So, and also with the weather. You were just telling me when we were just warming up that you're not really the humidity guy, but more the autumn, like soft weather. That's why you just live in Medellin.
Well, I'll give you an example. I went to Antarctica on a cruise, and I was the only one walking outside with a t-shirt in Antarctica. Yeah. That's how I feel about weather. So Medellin is great because, it gets warm. They have a summer and everything. The sun's out, no clouds, but you don't feel the humidity. You could literally sit under a tree and the breeze comes through and you don't feel hot.
Yeah, true.
So, definitely. I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I love Medellin for many reasons. You also know, but there's some downsides as well. But you have to handle this, and all the countries have some downsides, some upsides. So you have to get familiar with this. You have to know how to avoid this, and that's also very exciting. I mean, in general, maybe you agree. I'm pretty sure you do. That traveling and trading has a lot of things in common. You have to be very flexible. You have to, deal with setbacks you never knew that they were coming, and things like that.
I agree 100%. They definitely have a lot of similarities. The only thing I think doesn't have, well, I guess trading is a little bit dangerous too. If you don't know what you're doing, then you're just going to go bankrupt. So I guess it does. It is completely, it's very similar, both of them at the same time.
Yeah, you can lose your money in both ways. That's totally true. Sure. Kinda, yeah. But anyway, I mean, but you're not traveling so much right now, right? So you're more.
No, I mainly, I have so many projects here. I have a few construction projects that I have to keep an eye on. So I don't really leave Medellin for more than a week now. But it's kind of been nice because I've been traveling for so much. First time for pleasure. Then afterwards, it was more for business. Yeah. So now it's kind of nice and I'd have to pick up and go all the time. You know what I mean? I kind of enjoy the city a little bit, I have 9 dogs here. So it's great to kind of enjoy life a little bit now after working so hard. Yeah,
you told me you have these little ones, right? Like these. Yeah, they're cute.
Normally he's here with me, but they're downstairs right now.
Yeah, enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Let's talk a little bit about psychology, because this is, as you already said, this is the most important part. And a lot of people don't get it because they feel like, okay, show me the perfect entry, show me the perfect indicator, show me the perfect everything. But there is no perfect, there's just a perfect mindset.
The way that I can kind of explain that is if you took a bunch of rich people and took all their money away, all those rich people would be rich again because they would figure out a way to do it. Right. And on the opposite side, most people, I would say 99.999% of people that win the lottery lose it all and they go bankrupt because a poor mentality is going to lose all their money, whereas a rich mentality is always going to earn it. And so trading is very similar, where it's really not about making money. It's really about making the right decisions. And so by making the right decisions, one of the things that you have to understand is that you might have a fear of being successful. You might have a fear of money itself because, the socialist kind of mentality that's starting to permeate around the world is that money isn't good. Like rich people isn't good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you might have had a father, for example, that told you that rich people always get their money the bad way. You know, even though, for example, in the United States, I think over 90% of people that are millionaires earned it. They wasn't given it to them. So you might have that mentality, that negative mentality. And that's something that people have to work on.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of like a self-discovery where if you don't feel like you earn it even, right? Like if you grew up in a really bad household, for example, and you feel like you don't deserve to be successful, that can affect you as well, because then you'll self-sabotage yourself. There's a great feature now that a lot of people, if they don't know, are the funding companies that are primarily in futures and Forex. And what I've seen is a lot of people, they will do great until the last day, and then they just bust their account the last day because of that fear. So those are all things I think that people need to work on rather than focusing on making money. And I think it's one of the aspects that most people don't talk about trading.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, rich mentality, poor mentality, these are two things. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki was writing about this ages ago. We're still talking about it, but still people don't get it, right? They're just, having loans, they go into debt, they consume with money they don't have and all these things. But how can
it's funny. People always try to impress people that they don't know and they don't like. Like, why are people doing that, right? It's because of the insecurities they have. Yeah, then that kind of translates into trading as well. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, I mean, sure. They try to impress those people just to show them, hey, I'm better than you, kind of stuff like this. But of course, it's totally unnecessary in life. And yeah, it leads or can lead to disaster that you lose everything. So
one of the things that people can do is they can see, I saw this picture one time, Jay-Z, when he first started getting money with like rapping and stuff versus now when he's a billionaire. And in the first picture, he has, he's trying to show off the chains and the sneakers and everything. And now he just has like a t-shirt and jeans on. He doesn't show off at all. So it's like when you don't have it, it's like you feel like you have to show it. And then when you do have it, you don't care because you have it. It's like you earned it. Yeah. So it's definitely something that affects people quite a bit when it comes to trading.
Yeah, I mean, honestly speaking, and I'm pretty sure you are familiar with this, because it's always it's a trade-off. How much do I show in public of my lifestyle? Is it about showing I'm so rich? Does it matter at all? Or is it about, okay, this is a life I have, this is my life. And honestly speaking, you can have this life too. If you just push some buttons here and there and just work on yourself and work on this, and you can have it too. What do you think about this? Because it's really a trade-off. There are a lot of people, especially talking about Instagram, who really.
I heard in an interview the singer from London, Ed Sheeran, I think his name is. And he talked about how that he felt bad when he sees people trying to show off on Instagram because it shows an insecurity. Whereas what he uses is for his promotion, right? For his music and his businesses and stuff.
True.
And so I think that most of the people in this day and age with social media, it's really about that because of insecurities. They want the attention and all that, these thirst traps with the women and the thongs and everything too. Men do it also. So I think most of it is that. There might be a handful of people that it might not be about that, but I definitely agree with you that most of it is just because people are insecure and they want attention, unless people have a business, right? If you have a business, like whether you travel for a living and you need to do that to get views and clicks to be able to make money, then I would say it's a little bit different. Yeah. But I definitely agree with you that most of it is that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's always the point. It's so for me and for you the same, more or less, but more like in the past, it was business related, and still it is. But still, it's fun. It's just a reflection of the life I have. So it's always something. If you're really serious about what you're doing, and and not want to show off, it's always a question you have to answer yourself. So what do I show to the people? And of course, if you're like traveling some countries which are a little bit more dangerous in public's eyes, you better don't show off at all, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Did you have any bad experiences while traveling?
I got kidnapped in Venezuela, and then in South Sudan, when they just became a new country, I got detained for taking pictures at a bus stop. But other than that, I really haven't had any issues. I had one issue here in Colombia, which is, most people talk about how dangerous Colombia is, which I don't agree with them, because I think places like New York and Philadelphia and Chicago, Los Angeles are much more dangerous than Medellin.
Same story, yeah.
But it was actually my fault. So I was driving through one of these towns, and there was a guy who came out on a bike. A lot of the streets here, especially in the towns, are a little bit smaller. So the guy just came out from the corner, like a side street, and stopped right in front of my car. And here in Colombia, they have a kind of a communication with the honks. You can honk once like thank you or let me through. And so I got pissed off and I just held the horn at him, just like and he got upset. So I just kind of booked it. I have a car that has 400 horsepower, so I can get going if I need to. But I was still in the town, so I kind of just went around his bike and kept going. And then he parked the bike in the middle of the street and then got off of his bike, like lunging at the car.
Yeah, like Mad Max back then.
Right. So that's when I avoided him and I took off. And then later down, because there's so many curves in the mountains in Colombia, they were hitting my car with their legs, screaming profanities with a ski masks on. So eventually, because my car is so fast, I was able to leave, but that was my fault. Here in Colombia, you don't want to piss off the wrong guy because they might be involved with something that you don't want to be involved with.
For sure.
So, but other than that, for the most part, I never had any issues. I never get pickpocketed. I pretty much have had pretty good experiences traveling around the world.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I had two incidents. One of them you already know. I don't want to go to public with that one, but it's also my fault. It's like they're not really things. It's like trading. If you really don't be aware of situations and of risks and don't have proper risk management, also in your life, well, this is what happens, right?
Well, it's like Colombia, right? If you're going out partying, looking for drugs and like girls to sleep with, well, you're gonna get involved with things that you might not want to be involved in. It's kind of the same thing. And I think most people
like that, right?
But there are people. Yeah, there are people that have gotten into trouble that weren't looking for it, but I think that that happens a lot in the U.S. now too, especially in these bigger cities.
Everywhere.
So I think for the most part, if you're not looking for trouble or doing things you're not supposed to, for the most part, you'll be on the safe side.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's all over the world, and that's also what I really try to tell people. When I'm talking with my friends in Germany or family, say, oh, how could you ever go there? It's so dangerous. And say, I could go to Berlin, to the wrong neighborhood, and I would be much more worse off being in that neighborhood because people, they don't really understand any fun at all over there. Or just, being like with a bad luck or, oh, rich guy, give me your money, which is obviously something I totally not agree with, but I get the point with that, right? So if I show off like crazy, I don't have to, I don't have to question myself. How could this ever happen? Because I just made it possible to happen, right?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
This is what people really have to think about. And then it's, again, we come back from traveling to trading. It's more or less the same. You need to have the same mindset. Otherwise, you really, you break yourself in your mind.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So just for, ending this really enjoyable conversation, just assume I am a total newbie, just enter the market, want to begin with trading, want to have this life. We were just discussing what will be my first steps in your opinion. What do you think? And what do you suggest?
First thing I would say is find a coach. You can learn for free. I always tell people, but it's a balance of time. You're not going to be able to learn the mistakes that the person already went through. So it's going to take you a lot more time to do it on your own and for free. So that's the first thing. From there, I would say choose the correct market. I wouldn't recommend people I would stay completely away from markets like binary options and synthetic indexes.
Yes.
Those markets aren't regulated. And for example, the whole European zone made binary options illegal for that reasons. They're highly manipulated and they're not regulated.
Yes.
So it's like the broker manipulates the market in their favor, and it's a lot harder for you to make money.
Because
Forex is like that as well.
Right? Yeah.
Say again?
There are no markets. These are no markets.
Yeah, they don't exist. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean. So stay completely away from those. Forex is a little bit in that direction, but at least it is it's a regulated market individually in each country.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a little bit of fun and games that go on there too, because the market is so institutionalized. There's what, 94%, I think, of the market in Forex is the big players, you know, the banks and the central banks and the hedge funds and things.
Yeah.
So I would recommend you go to more of a beginner's market like stocks and futures. I'm still a big proponent in futures, especially for people to learn. You can start with just $100, especially with the micro futures. Mm-hmm. And then you also have the advantage where, and I didn't have this when I was learning, where you can actually trade with somebody else's money with these funded accounts, like a company, for example, like Take Profit Trader. So you can start with $100, practice. It's not like you're going to start with $100 and become a millionaire, right? So keep that in mind.
True.
You know, full disclosure, I'm not a trading advisor. This is for educational purposes only.
Yeah.
Right. So don't just think you're just going to start and become, you know, Warren Buffett tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. You know, it's a lot of work involved. You can lose a lot of money. You can lose all your money if you're not serious. Yeah. But that's basically what I would do. And then after that, it's just a matter of practicing, you know, honing your skill and then focusing on psychology. And then hopefully you'll become one of those that break through.
Yeah, totally agree. So there's nothing to add from my side. And I really enjoyed our conversation. Very fun, and it's almost 1 hour without realizing it. So thank you so much, Marcello, for sharing all your wisdom, all your insights, and all your stories. And I hope we can continue one day with that one and just go a little bit deeper in one of our favorite topics like trading, life, and traveling. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's already it. And I really hope that you enjoyed this episode and you took away some learnings for your personal trading. If you want to learn more about me, about my interview partners, if you want to have a one-on-one coaching or even get into a training course with me or my interview partners, just get into the show notes and follow one of all these links you find there. And then I will be happy to hear and see you again. Your Wieland Arlt.